Okay, well, welcome everyone. I did want to let you know that the session is being recorded, and I'm very pleased that you're all here. I am Jennifer James. I'm the Associate Director of External Events and Corporate Relations at SUNY Poly, and I'm so pleased to have Bianca here with us tonight. Bianca was a student of SUNY Poly's psychology program when she first learned about the mind-body-spirit connection and the impact that stress has on our health and well-being. When she discovered that she needed support in all areas of life, she began practicing yoga. After a year of practice, she expanded her studies with a yoga teacher training program that would lead her to her opening her own yoga studio in Rome, New York. With a desire to share even more, Bianca now teaches personal transformation and spirituality through online courses, in-person workshops, retreats, and free resources on her website. Following this webinar, you can visit her website at biancamjohnson.com/SUNY to explore even more tools for transforming your health and your life. And I'll include that link in our chat box. Today, Bianca will be sharing 4 simple tools that you can use in 5 minutes or less to combat stress and anxiety, something we all need right now. I also asked Bianca to reflect back on her time at SUNY Poly, and she is full of memories. From magic shows to maker fairs to mudsliding at the freshman dorms to having her own talk show, her memories are endless. Her absolute favorite memory was during freshman seminar. They were doing an icebreaker and the professor asked students to go to one side of the room or the other, depending on what they liked. For example, one of the questions was chocolate ice cream or vanilla. If you liked vanilla, you went to the left, and if you liked chocolate, you went to the right. One of the questions was if you played an instrument, and the whole class scrambled from one side of the room to the other, while one classmate stayed in the middle and asked, "Is mayonnaise an instrument?" For those of you who don't know, that's a line from the show SpongeBob. Half of the class laughed while the other half stood there in confusion. That was the start of her closest friendships at SUNY. The ones who got the joke, that is. So without further ado, welcome Bianca.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited to be able to share some things to help you bust some stress and anxiety. As Jen was giving my introduction, I felt the need to clarify mudsliding at the student dorms was not alcoholic. There was a hill that when it rained would get super muddy and we could physically slide down it. So lots of fun times at SUNY Poly, and I'm honored to continue to be part of their community even so many years later. So right now in our world, we're all experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, some fear, some sadness, some frustration, and these are a lot of normal things that we tend to experience. But even now, so as we're living through this pandemic and as there's so many other things going on in our world, so now more than ever, it's really important for us to be focusing on ourselves and making sure that we are feeling well, because no matter what, we can't pour from an empty cup. So whether we're parents or we need energy for our job or for our relationships, we want to make sure that we are being taken care of so that we can be there to love and support others, especially during this time. So the great news is that we have the ability to shift all of these feelings, all of these emotions. And in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is something I learned a little bit about as an undergraduate in psychology, has this whole premise about our behavior affecting our mood. And so the beautiful thing about that is that our behavior is a conscious choice. And so our mood, our emotions, our feelings can be a conscious choice as well. A little bit more simply put, motion equals emotion. And this has been taught by all sorts of world-renowned teachers, including Tony Robbins. That's one of his big principles. And so the main things that we can start to move in order to feel better are moving our body and moving our thoughts, moving our minds and our awareness and our focus. So that's what I'm going to help you guys do today. We're going to be exploring 4 quick and easy tools that you can do in just 5 minutes or less. And these tools can be used anytime, anywhere, whether you're sitting at your desk at work or you're in traffic or in line at the bank. They're really user-friendly and available to us always. So Before we get started, I would like you all to just kind of pause. If you'd like to and it's comfortable, you can close your eyes and really tune into your body, tune into your breath, tune into your emotions. And we're going to be rating our level of stress and anxiety and frustration from a scale from 1 to 5. So number 1 is going to be the least intense, very calm, not agitated or in any way. And 5 being more intense, more frustrated, more stressed, more anxious. So just take a couple of moments to breathe into your body, to tap into your mind and your emotions, and get a gauge on where you are on that scale. And as you do this without any form of judgment. So that can be one of the things that really stops us from moving forward, is judging how we're feeling as a good feeling or a bad feeling, or the right way of feeling versus the wrong way of feeling, when in reality, these are all just experiences. So there's no need to judge the experience. Just take a moment to acknowledge whatever that experience is for you right now. I'll give you about 30 seconds to a minute to do that. And as you get this number, if you feel called, you can definitely share that in our chat box, just so I can see where you're at. If you're uncomfortable sharing that number, that's totally fine too. You do not have to. So we're going to phase right into our first technique that I have for you today, which is called 3-part breath. And so when we breathe, when we're born, we take deep breaths into our chest and all the way down into our belly. And so if you ever watch a baby breathe, their bellies expand really big and then they soften, and there's a lot of movement happening there. But as we grow up and become adults and we experience these emotions of stress, of anxiety, of frustration, of fear, of overwhelm, our breath starts to shorten. So it becomes very fast and very shallow, and it's only in our chest. And so what this does to our nervous system is it puts us in a state of fight or flight. And this is the anxiety space. And so if we are able to create movement in our body by moving the breath and expanding not just in our chest, but be creating that motion in the stomach as well, we can start to calm our central nervous system and start to come out of that fight or flight state, out of that anxious state, and into a more calm and centered space. So first part of the 3-part breath, you're going to take one of your hands, and I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but you're going to take this hand and just rest it on your stomach. And what you're going to do here is you're going to start to take deep belly breaths so that you can feel this hand on your stomach pressing out as you inhale and moving back as you exhale. And we're just going to take a couple of breaths just like this, and we're going to expand on this breath to use the full capacity of our lungs. And after a few of those breaths, you're going to leave that hand still on your belly, and you're going to take your opposite hand now, and you're going to place it right on the outer portion of your rib cage. And now the goal here is, as you breathe in, to fill your belly and to fill your ribs. And with your breath out, softening and releasing from both of these spaces. Again, a nice deep breath in, filling the belly, filling the ribs. And as you exhale, softening and releasing. Taking one more of those breaths on your own pace. And now the hand on your abdomen is going to stay there again. The hand from our rib cage now is going to lift from the ribs up onto our chest, right at heart center. And this is going to be the 3rd part to our 3-part breath. So as you breathe in, now you're going to work on filling your abdomen, filling the ribs, and filling all the way up to your chest. And with your exhalation, same thing, releasing from the chest, from the ribs, and from your belly. Now, it's totally okay if you're not able to take that full breath. to fill all three of these spaces. When we do breathe so much from our chest, it is harder to breathe fully using all of the compartments of the lung. And so it takes some time to work up to that. So just take the deepest breaths that you're able to with your hand on your belly and your hand on your chest. And now as you're ready, let your hands come down to your lap or wherever they're comfortable, and take a couple more of those breaths using all three parts of the body. And once you're ready, you can start to soften that effort and return to your natural breath. So this is a really great technique. Again, it has an ability to calm the central nervous system, which has a big impact on the way that we're feeling, especially in our bodies. I actually was using the 3-part breath before we started today because I had a little bit of anxiety about coming on and teaching this webinar, which I thought was ironic, having anxiety before teaching a webinar on anxiety, but we all get it. And so it's a great tool to help us come back to center, to be really grounded and be able to show up in our best and highest self. So the next thing we're going to be doing is another breathing technique. And this breathing technique is called the 1-minute breath. Again, it's a progressive breath. So the idea with the 1-minute breath is that you'll inhale for a period of time and then hold the breath. Exhale for the same period of time and hold the breath again. And so the idea is that the inhale, exhale, and holds all are the same length. And so we're going to start. I'm going to guide you through a couple together, and then you'll have a couple of times to practice on your own. And with this breathing technique, we're going to start with a count of 4. But if you feel called to, after when it's your turn to practice, you can increase to a 5, 6, 7, or whatever feels really good for your body. That's really what all these techniques are about, not about doing them the right way versus the wrong way, but about doing what feels best for you and helps you to come back to a really nice feeling space. So we'll start with just a cleansing breath here, taking a deep inhale and an exhale. Beginning our 1-minute breath. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. And then you're going to come back to your inhale, and you're going to continue on your own count now. Again, if 4 feels really good for you, continue with 4. And if you want to go a little bit further, you can increase the breath, just making sure that all of those intervals are the same. And taking one more round of that breath. And after the suspension of your next exhalation, you can come back to your natural pattern of breathing. So this is called the 1 minute breath because you can do it in as little as a minute. And after just 1 minute of doing this breath, you should start to feel a shift happening in your body. So again, this is really great if you are someone that gets a little frustrated when you're in line at the grocery store, or if traffic bothers you or things like that. It's also great because it's super user friendly. So my sister-in-law, having her kids home at this time period has been very stressful for her. And I said, we'll just do the 1 minute breath. When you're in the shower, when you're washing dishes, when you're vacuuming, it doesn't matter what else you're doing. You can integrate this breath in any activity, and it can really start to calm the body, calm the mind. So great tool. You can do it obviously for longer than a minute if it feels good for you and you want to continue doing it. But the beautiful thing is it only takes 1 minute, which we all usually have a minute that we can spare here or there. So the next technique that we are going to be doing is called rewiring thought patterns. And this one I'm just going to be talking about. We're not actually going to be doing it together because it's used in specific scenarios. So as humans, we tend to have about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day, which is a lot of thoughts. And about 90% of those thoughts that we've had today are the same types of thoughts that we had yesterday. So the same thoughts we've had about ourselves, about our relationships, about our jobs, about our homes, and they're all the same. And so what happens is over a period of time of having the same types of thoughts, the synapses within our brain get wired to fire automatically. And so if the narrative that you're speaking in your mind is, the world is a scary place and I am not safe and my career is on the line and things like that, and you've been telling yourself that same story since the start of the pandemic, what happens is this is going to be your automatic thought for a long time. And so our thoughts create our emotions. And so our emotions are what we're trying to shift here. And so if we can start by shifting those thoughts, we can shift those emotions. And so this takes a lot of awareness, which is very, very difficult when you get started paying attention to your thoughts. But so the way that rewiring your thoughts works is that, let's say you have a thought about your job and you're saying, I don't like my job, I'm unhappy here, I'm not paid enough. And you notice while you're sitting at your desk, this narrative start to show up for you. What you do is you pause and you then think 3 positive things about that same subject. So if it was about your relationship, you would think 3 positive things about your relationship. If it was about yourself, you would think 3 positive things about yourself. And this can be a little bit hard to find the positive things when we have a lot of negative emotion things around things. But the beautiful thing about this is that when we start to take these 3 positive things, we start to rewire the brain, wire the synapses that are associated with positive thinking. And as we do this and practice this, it trains our brain to think more positively, more automatically. And so rather than those 60,000 thoughts playing on repeat without our control and creating an emotional response that's out of our control, we can start to pay attention to the thoughts, consciously shift the thoughts, and then consciously shift the emotions within our body. So again, just like the other tools we've talked about so far, extremely user-friendly. You can do this at your desk at work, in traffic, at the bank, at the grocery store, when you're interacting with friends or family. It's very available anyway. And it's important with this that you realize that you'll use this tool a lot if you're committed to shifting your thought patterns. And what I mean by that is you're not going to use it just today and tomorrow have all positive thoughts, because after a long time of those 60,000 thoughts replaying, they're very stuck in our minds. And so it takes time to rewire them. There will be days that you use this 10 times. There will be days that you use this 1,000,000 times. It's just a tool and a resource. So again, not having judgment over yourself as you go through this process of shifting, but just knowing that it is a process and being patient with that process. And so the last technique I have for you guys today is called Peace Begins With Me. And this helps, again, to shift the mind and shift the focus by using what's called a mantra or an affirmation. A lot of you are probably more familiar with positive affirmations. And so with this, it's a mantra, but there's also what's called hand mudras. And so for each of the words, peace begins with me. We move the thumb from the index finger to the middle finger, to the ring finger, and to the pinky finger. And so not only is this allowing us to shift our thought patterns, but we're bringing some movement into the body as well. And so again, motion creates emotion. And if we move our body and move our mind and our focus, that's where we can start to shift into better ways of feeling. And so for this one, you have the option, if you'd like, to speak the words out loud, or if that's a little uncomfortable for you, you can just say them in your head. It has to be right for you, whatever feels good. And so again, thumb and index fingers together, peace, then begins with me. And you don't have to hold your hands up like this. I'm just holding them to show you. You can rest them in your lap or whatever they feel most comfortable. And so this goes, peace begins with me. 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 Two more. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. So this one is really beautiful and really valuable because it does remind us that our sense of peace, our sense of calm, our sense of feeling good begins with ourselves. With so much happening externally, we often think that we'll be happy when our job changes or when our relationship improves or when our health is better. But realistically, we can be happy and feel good and feel peaceful and feel centered and feel grounded right now if we choose to, through shifting our emotion, through shifting our behaviors and letting that shift our emotion, our feelings, our moods. So those are the 4 techniques that I had for you to help combat stress and anxiety. Before we turn it over to Q&A, I want you guys to pause again for a moment and just tune back into your body, back into your mind, back into your emotions. And again, rate how you're feeling on that scale from 1 to 5. 5 being the most intense, angry, stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, and 1 being calm, centered, feeling good. And maybe this number has gone from a 5 to a 4. Maybe it's gone from a 3 to a 1. You might not have gone from a 5 to a 1. Again, all of these techniques help us to feel a little bit better, but it's like a ladder. You have to kind of gradually climb up to where you want to be. So even if you've had a slight improvement, or even if you're about the same, it doesn't matter. Just kind of note where you're at. Notice how these techniques made you feel. Because if these did really help you to feel better, you can definitely integrate them at a later time in your day and in your life to keep that consistent feeling of good, positive feeling. And again, if you guys feel called to, maybe share where you were at the start of our workshop compared to now. And if you don't feel called to and that's uncomfortable to share, you definitely don't have to. But from here, we're going to go over to the Q&A. So whenever Jennifer is ready for us.
Thank you so much, Bianca. I don't know about everyone else, but I definitely feel more relaxed now.
Excellent. Perfect. That means we've done our job here.
Yes, we did have a few numbers, so those are in there. But Kevin is asking, how many times did you repeat the mantra, peace begins with me?
There's really no set number of times. So with any of these, it's about you'll start to feel the shift. I think most of these techniques are recommended for like 3 to 5 minutes. But again, the 1 minute breath can be done in as little as a minute. So it varies. But I really love that mantra because just like the other things, it's usable anywhere. So there's been times where I don't say it out loud, but if I'm in a conversation where I find myself getting angry, I'll just start doing the hand movement with that, like under the desk or wherever, and recite it in my head. And it really does have a powerful shift. So it's less about the number and more about how it makes you feel.
Great. We did have a question come in earlier during registration. And after listening to you, I imagine many of these techniques can be used with children. But the question was, do you have thoughts on reducing anxiety in children, especially younger children, as they head back to school during the pandemic?
That is an excellent, excellent question. And actually, 3-part breathing I do with kids all the time. The 1 minute breath I do with kids all the time. I do the peace begins with me. The only one I haven't taught is like the rewiring your thoughts, because it's a little more complicated and takes a little bit more awareness. But those 3 I've used a bunch of times, and I've actually, with the Rome City School District, have taught workshops for the teachers, and they're using these same tools. So yeah, absolutely integrate these, teach them to your kids. There's plenty of other stuff that kids can do as well, but these 3 are helpful for them just as they are for you. And in practicing them with your children, it builds like an unbreakable bond that really helps you both come back to a good space. So yeah, definitely.
Very good. But we did have someone go from a 5 to a 3.
Excellent.
So that's excellent. We had another participant, not a question, but you definitely rock. They are super relaxed now.
Excellent, excellent.
And another question came in. How do I make sure I am registered for those? Oh, I guess that's just, we will be sending out a recording of this. So if you did miss the beginning, you'll receive that. And another question with the 1-minute breath, does it matter if you inhale through the nose or mouth?
You should be doing both the 3-part breathing and the square breathing through the nose if possible. Yes. And actually someone sent me privately that they went from a 3 to a 2. So we see like we have a couple of people. So again, it's not about going from a 3 to a 1 or a 5 to a 1, but just having small improvements. And the more you practice this and make it a part of your life, the more you'll easier and quicker shift out of those more intense feelings to better feelings. So,
does this help lower blood pressure? These techniques?
So the breathing will help with lowering blood pressure. Yes.
Very good.
Yep. Anything you're doing to kind of relax and de-stress and calm down is going to kind of have that same kind of effect. So.
Very good. If there are other questions, if you want to put those in the chat, we'll answer them. Otherwise, we will wrap up. Okay, well, I think that's it for tonight. Again, thank you so much. This was really fantastic. And for those of you participating as guests, if you do have ideas for the other sessions, we'll be putting together a fall series of speakers coming up. So we definitely will take suggestions, but thank you so much, Bianca. Thank you everyone else for joining us, and hopefully you'll have a nice, relaxing week.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.